Hello, welcome. I'm Hannah, and today I'm going to be eye swatching some Terra Moons shadows that are varying degrees of new to me. So, for instance, I got Sublunar in the mail today. This was the only shadow I ordered from them for Black Friday. Moon Mosaic and Hyperspace I unboxed in my Wizard of Oz video, and I used Hyperspace a couple times. Moon Mosaic, I'm not sure if I've done a full look around. And then the other five I bought in October, and I've used each of them at least once also. So it's a first impressions when it comes to Sublunar, but the other ones I already have some thoughts on, but I am excited to still discover them more, see them on their own, and maybe get inspired for future ways that I want to use them. So I'm gonna zoom you in, and we'll get right into it. Okay, as per usual, I don't have anything on my eyelids, but I will tap some some old foundation over them later on if I feel like I need to. I'm really excited to just dig into Sublunar. It looked so pretty and beautiful and chunky in all the swatch pictures I was seeing on Instagram, and at first I resisted because I was still waiting on my first order to come in when I placed the order for these two. Kind of an overlapping timeline here, and I wasn't sure how Stellar Apotheosis would compare to it, but you can see clearly now that Stellar Apotheosis definitely has an intense colorful base and Sublunar doesn't. And actually I'll swatch those next to each other just because why not? So Sublunar, it feels the way I expect these really flaky Terra Moon shadows too. Not all of their shadows are flaky, but I feel like if you see swatch pictures, which if you look on Instagram, they send out a decent amount of PR before their collections go live, you can tell which ones look more intense or not. Oh wow, I feel like I picked up way too much. Because I think this one is more flaky than the flakiness that I get from other shadows. But that is really pretty, and it's interesting how, even though I know from, hearing people on Instagram that the base is more translucent, it's so thick, it doesn't look like I'm wearing a sheer iridescent shadow, you know? But those flips are so visible. You can really clearly see that, reddish color. You could see that bright yellow. And I don't know if I've ever noticed before, my hood having a reflect. Doesn't it look green right around the ridge of where my eye folds in? That's insane. I don't know what to do about this. I don't know how I'm going to use this shadow, but I like it. It definitely delivers, but it's definitely a lot, and I think in the future I'm gonna try to go in with less on my finger and just pat it over something. Yeah. For my other eye, let's try Stellar Apotheosis, which I've used a couple times, and I think it's exceptionally, amazingly gorgeous. So you can see already in the finger, it has similar reflex to it, but it has a more intense blue-green base. Yeah, and I think we could see by the way it goes in. I went in the same exact way on this eye as I did on the Sublunar eye, and it was a lot more contained. I think this is definitely a looser, more flaky formula than Stellar Apotheosis is. I think Stellar Apotheosis is the same formula as the Cosmos and other flakier textured shadows I've tried from them. I love Stellar Apotheosis. I feel like it's just so bold. It's kind of like the Cosmos, but definitely more red, and the Cosmos I think is more pink. I can do a comparison swatch when I swatch these on my hand at the end. But that is interesting. I feel like if I didn't have this on, this eye would look so bold and intense, but this one is way more bold and intense than the usual bold and intense that I expect from them. Okay, I did smooth over my eyelids with my old foundation brush just because I didn't want them to still have that wetness to them or whatever, and I have a really shiny face. Huh. Okay, the next two that I want to do, we'll take a step back for a brief moment from the really intensely foiled ones. These I want to compare for my own scientific deductions. I have Moon Mosaic and Shattered Stars. Moon Mosaic is from their most recent collection, and I could tell from the pictures that it wasn't going to be as ultra textured and everything as the heavy hitters, as Sublunar, as Lyra, which I didn't get because it looks like Fairy Fire and I have Fairy Fire, and Hyperspace, those looked like they were really foiled. Moon Mosaic looked like a more normal type of metallic or whatever, but I was tempted by swatch pictures on Instagram where it looked really teal. Trying it since I've gotten it, it doesn't feel that teal. Like, I know it has that teal flip, but I think I need to remember that when I'm basing my decisions based on pictures, that like sometimes those pictures are capturing the best moment of the shadow and not like the reality of what it looks like 90% of the time. And Shattered Stars, I've only worn this once also, but I thought it was like a really interesting kind of like grungy look. I'm gonna stop talking with bare eyelids. Let me go into Moon Mosaic. Yeah, so like in contrast to the other ones that pick up very flaky, this one feels very smooth. I think it looks like an interesting color, but I don't think it's a very me color. Like, I think it looks really pretty. You could see that like yellowy green flip to it, and then the color looks like an intertwined blue, teal, and like pinky purple. Like, it looks really pretty, but I don't know. I'm not obsessed with the formula, and like it's not a me color. It's not a color that like I gravitate to for no reason. So I think if this is your type of color, maybe you don't even like need the super intense, flaky, foily finish. But I think if this is your color, you would be more prone to like this than I am. I really like that shift though. Like, it's not like I'm like gonna rush to declutter or anything, but I also just don't know like when I would reach to wear this over some of the other ones. Let's look at Shattered Stars. This one feels maybe a little bit more textured than Moon Mosaic. And on my finger, it looks quite purple, even though I don't think of this as a purple. I think I'm gonna have to pick up a little bit more. Yeah, I don't really feel like these are the same. Like, they feel more similar to each other than they feel to the really flaky ones. But like this one, I feel like it's more shiny and less shifty. And like, that's what I'm about. Like I've said before, I'll take shimmer over flips. You know, like to me, shimmer is the most important thing in like a shimmer eyeshadow. And this I do feel like is really unique to my collection. It just looks like this like deep eggplant purple with like green sparkles, like a misty green type of sparkle. I don't know. It's really interesting. I like the brightness to it. The brightness is up my alley. And when I wore it in kind of like a grungy, blown out brown look with this on the lid. And I thought it looked really interesting. Like the base of it led itself to the deep mattes, but then the brightness was kind of like a fun little surprise. So yeah, that's Moon Mosaic and Shattered Stars. Okay, next let's do the two more kind of like orangey yellowish shadows, and then we'll finish up with the pinky ones next. So the next shadow is Solar Delirium, and this shade is out of this world. Absolutely gorgeous. I wore it just recently in my video about what I bought on Black Friday, and that time I wore it with brown mattes. But I feel like with this one, you can play up other elements of it. Like this would look so pretty with yellows, it would look so pretty with oranges, and it would look so pretty with greens because it has such an intense like green glow to it. Like it's like a neon green that it goes to while still having that like orange base and like yellow sparkles. And I love this shadow too because I feel like it just like, it pops off the face. Like doesn't that look so like unnatural in the best way? I love that about this shade. This might be the one out of these that I've gotten the most use out of. I don't exactly know why that is. I mean, I have some theories, look at it, but it's just so like captivating, like even in the pan. It looks like nothing else I have. And on my eye, it definitely looks like nothing else I have. I really, really love this shadow. The next one is Lightspeed. I think this came out originally in the spring, and I was interested then, but I held back when I talked about Terra Moons and how I was skipping this launch, just because I felt kind of like overwhelmed with all the new shadows coming out, and it was a reminder to myself and maybe anyone else that needed to hear it that like, if you feel overwhelmed, it's okay to take a step back. You don't have to like jump in blindly because these things get restocked, like it's fine. But I had been told that this shadow is really special because in that video I was like, I have a yellow from Luxie, and people were like, no, this one This one's the real deal. And I will say, I haven't worn it on my lid yet, and I think it looks really cool and interesting on my lid. I love using yellow as like a neutral, and I think this with like some yellowy browns for like a more like subtle look would be so pretty. Even like I love the different degrees of yellow in it, that like lemon yellow base with this like sparkly light yellow on top of it, and there's that like pink reflect to it. So pretty. But I will say the only way I've used it so far is as an inner corner, because that's how I use the Luxie one that it reminds me of. And I don't like this as an inner corner. I feel like it has just way too much of that yellow base. But I think this looks really pretty, and I definitely want to wear it in like a wearable way. So yeah, that's Solar Delirium and Lightspeed. Okay, we're already down to the final two. I feel like I usually take way longer, and maybe that's because it's like usually first impressions and I have to spend a lot of time like oohing and ahhing on my eyelids. And today I can just like deliver and move on. Deliver and move on. So for the last two, let's talk about Flare Star first. Flare Star came out over the summer, and I knew I wanted it right away. It's every bit as pretty and special as I imagined it would be. I gotta pick up a little more. I feel like it's such a unique pink to start out with. It's like a hot bubblegum pink. It has that like yellowy bronzy flip to it, and it's so intense. Like I have a lot of lights on me right now, and you can still see that so clearly. I really, really love this shadow. I can't wait to wear it more. It's just so perfect. It's so foily and sparkly and shifty, and I love the color, and it's just like everything all at once. Anything that like I thought it might be like, it's really not like. If anything, I'd say it's most similar to Hottie from Shine by SD, but the formula of that one I find to be very like thin and not so sparkly. And this one like completely delivers on sparkle. And then the final one, Hyperspace. I love Hyperspace. If you caught that Wizard of Oz video, if not, I'll link it down below. But I did do a look with it, and I was obsessed. Do you see that green? Wow. I was a little nervous before I got the shadow because I thought it might have too intense of a base. I've been able to before like talk myself into these darker base shadows, and then when push comes to shove, I never use them. But I find this one like really easy to work with. The first time I wore it in the Wizard of Oz video, I paired it with this like deep burgundy matte, and I feel like it really played up the pink in it. And then the other time I wore it with brown mattes, and I feel like it didn't look as pink as it does now. Well, in fact, I feel like it looks a little bit red now. But I feel like when I wore it with brown mattes, it looked way like more neutral and grungy, and that makes me like even more excited by the shadow and interested, because I feel like it's a bit of a chameleon and it can like morph into whatever look you put it with. Also super shifty. You see that like yellow in it. I love this shadow. I'm gonna make a look now. I guess I'm gonna go with Flare Star because I'm wearing this sweater. So I'm gonna do that and I'll be right back. Okay, I just kept it fast and simple, and I really, really like how this looks. It's just Flare Star all over my eyes, no primer because I forgot to put it on before the last set of swatches, so then I didn't put it on my other eye either. I just did a light transition. My lower lash line I did a hot pink matte. I'm not wearing an inner corner shade. We'll get to that. I'm wearing a hot pink matte from the Menagerie and Annette's Makeup Corner Serenity palette, and I have Chestnut from Terra Moons as the brown here. I actually bought this recently also, and on the website I thought it was going to be way lighter in color than it is, but I mean I do like it, but it's not as unique of a color as I thought it would be, but it does like look really nice on my lower lash line, and it's not as hard to work with as I remember some of my older Terra Moons mattes being. I'm tempted to put Sublunar on my inner corner, even though I'm scared of it, but I guess it'll be a good learning experience. I tried to pick it up super light. That might have been too light. Okay, that's kind of a nice little glow to it. Sometimes I don't like really chunky shadows on my inner corner. Yeah, that works just fine. Let's zoom out and we'll talk about how I would rank these. I think it's gonna get kind of difficult up top, so we're just gonna start at the end that like if I had to give one away, which would I choose? And we'll just kind of keep going and we'll swatch them along the way. So my weakest link, it's gonna be Moon Mosaic. I should preface this by saying, I think these are all good shadows. There's none that are like last because I think they're absolute trash or anything. It's just all of the other shadows are more me than this shadow, and I think I would get the least use, well, and I will get the least use of this out of any of them. It's really just like the lack of sparkle. I mean, it has like a nice shine to it, but it doesn't have that like intense finish that I love from Terra Moons. And the color of it is just kind of like a dark teal that I don't usually go for. Next, I would give away Lightspeed. I like it, but I don't think it's as impressive of a shadow as the other ones. I also don't think it's as expensive of a shadow as the other ones. Yeah, I like it, but I can definitely live without it. And I think this is where it gets kind of hard. Like, I think there's a pretty big gap between these first two I would give up and the rest of the 6. But I mean, the next one has to be Shattered Stars. I like it, but I'm definitely not going to use it as much as the other ones, and it's more of like a specific look for me. But it is pretty. And this is also where it's hard that I'm going off of first impressions for one of them and not the others, but I'm gonna put the next one as Sublunar. I'm a little intimidated by this right now, and I feel like the way that it picked up when I did that first eye swatch was a lot. So I'm gonna have to like work with this more. This one could like definitely change its ranking by a lot in the coming weeks, but right now I would give it up to save the others. And then this is where really hard decisions are made, because these 4, I love all 4 of these. I think my next one would be Flare Star, which I think just shows how hard this is, because I really love this look. I really love the shadow. It doesn't look as shifty in the swatch, but you see it on the eyes. Next, I would give up Solar Delirium. I would not give it up without a fight, but I would give it up to save the others. But like, you know it's serious if I have to give up Solar Delirium. I really, really, really love that. And then for the final 2, number 2 would be Stellar Apotheosis. Absolutely love this one. So unique and bold on the lids. And number 1, Hyperspace. I think I love this one so much because like, A, it surprised me a lot. And B, I just love that I'm like feeling this like chameleon-ness of it. And it just makes me so excited to try it in different looks and see what it comes out like. These are all so beautiful. Even looking at the swatches, I feel like I might actually switch Shattered Stars with Sublunar, because like this intrigues me more to use right now than this does. But again, that's the curve of that one being my first impression. Here's Stellar Apotheosis and the Cosmos. I feel like the Cosmos looks kind of like daintier and lighter, and Stellar Apotheosis just like go full steam ahead. Here's Flare Star and Shine by SD Hottie. You can see Hottie is like a hotter pink and doesn't have that like flaky sparkle that the other 3 have. And that's gonna be everything for today. I forgot to mention before that I actually wasn't even planning on doing a swatch video with these because I felt like it was such kind of like a little random assortment, and I had gotten a comment that was like, can't wait for your Terra Moons eye swatches, so I was like, okay. But I think in the coming year I might try to make more like channel focused makeup purchasing decisions, and I think that would mean more Terra Moons eye swatches because I feel like people have enjoyed them in the past, so let me know if that would be something you'd be interested in. Either way, give me a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and thank you so much for being here today. Bye. But I am just thinking about Hyperspace. What you thinking about, Hyperspace?